You think you know me.
Today on Security VIP, we feature the Executive Vice President of Azure Access Technology, Evan Zinger. Get ready for nothing but the truth.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Security VIP podcast. It's your home for nothing but the truth. As always, I'm your host, Taylor May, and we are kicking off the new year 2026 with our first episode. And my first guest, his name is Evan Zinger. He's the Executive Vice President for Azure Access Technology. Evan, my friend, welcome to SVIP. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Taylor. I'm doing great. Good start to the new year.
Great start to the new year, man. Everyone always has these new resolutions and these goals they put in place for New Year. I want to lose weight. I want to stop eating bad, yada, yada, yada. What's a New Year resolution for you, man, that you're putting in place for 26?
New Year's resolutions. Obviously, I'm going to go with the cliche. I need to be more active. I've had my head too buried in work for the last year. But now hopefully, the fruits of the labor are going to start showing themselves this year and I can get back to being active. And on the business side, a goal is to really build on a lot of the groundwork that we put in the last couple of years, new products coming out, and really making a splash, and building on the momentum.
Making a splash is everyone's goal, I think, in 2026, especially in Q1 when you got to get some momentum started, get the ball down the hill, So I think that's a good answer, by the way, because your second answer around getting the business more momentum around that. I'm a big revenue guy. So I'm always like revenue's king. So that's always my new resolution to sell, 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 get more revenue because revenue justifies every expense, right? It justifies every venture. But Evan, my friend, I guess before we get started and share more about Azure, obviously I got connected with you guys through Imran Corporation. As we kicked off for the call, Imran's going to be part of our experience center at SVIP. We're using their Unity IS platform, but then Frederick obviously is with you guys now, and I've known Frederick now for quite some time. So big fan of what you guys do with the company. But before we pivot to that, why don't you give some context to our listeners just about yourself and your experience in the industry?
All right. Let's see. I feel like I'm getting old, but people laugh when they say that. Been in the industry about 12, 13 years now. I can't even believe it. They say the access control industry chooses you. You don't choose it. So my origin story actually started by dating Frank Gattoni's daughter's friend. I ended up as an intern at Mercury in Long Beach, California. It was an awesome experience. Got to be mentored by the founders there. Learned a lot. Went through the Acre buyout, the HID buyout. Was working on a couple other entrepreneur opportunities. Outside of the space, I was in the audio visual space. Did a couple companies there, and then another manufacturing type company. Some more successful than others. None of them played out where it'd be like a super long-term thing. And I got a huge opportunity to come here and build the OEM business, Azure Access. The sister company, Apollo Security, wanted to get into the OEM space. So the owner came to me and said, hey, with your experience and, your personality, do you want to come kind of be a part of this incubator project where we'll fund it, we'll support it. You can leverage our experience, in technology there and try to drive it. So that was in 2018. It's been a long road, entire product line, brand new architecture for the access control space, and just been having a great time and hoping to reap the fruits of the labor here in the next few years.
I feel like with your experience, man, obviously coming from Mercury helps a huge advantage for a competitive standpoint. But I guess what else can you bring to something? I wouldn't say new. You guys aren't new, but I think more getting the word out there, more awareness on what y'all are building, the advantages versus at Mercury or another panel, controller. I mean, what else are you bringing besides like that competitive advantage to a company like this? I'm just curious.
So what we've seen with the big players now, a lot of feedback is there's areas that are kind of casualties of being big conglomerates, and usually it's in kind of the support side, sometimes the product development, the ability to deliver solutions that customers really want and being very dynamic. So not being like a multinational, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, we have a lot of flexibility and we're able to be very dynamic. So as we've built our partner base, everyone has ideas of stuff they want to do. Sometimes it's unique, sometimes it's brand new, sometimes it's ways to leverage a blend of the way things have been done and new ideas, or maybe leveraging existing technology in the space And we've developed a platform that we started, over a decade ago that would be able to kind of meld in these ideas to create more complete solutions that are greater than the sum of the parts. And then the ability to support our partners and make people really enjoy working with us. I take a lot of pride in the fact that if you ask anyone who works with us, they'll say they love working with us. The amount of support we give that we actually really enjoy giving, whether it's, hand holding through the whole integration process, working in tandem for joint marketing, that really personal one-on-one feel that you kind of lose working with a big company.
I think that's always the concern with bottlenecks on the big guys, man. And I mean, again, not to discredit Mercury. Obviously, I've known Matt Barnett for years when he was the president at
He was
Mercury.
the president when I was there too, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and I like Matt. I know he's doing great things at PSA. But to your point, when you got these big guys, conglomerates in the industry, they're kind of complacent in their ways to innovate or iterate, and they're not always open to hearing new ideas or bringing fresh perspectives in. So I think that's a cool thing about what you guys are doing. Obviously, you're an executive at the company, but if someone has a new idea that you want to incorporate or maybe trial, I would say you're probably open to that. I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. We've done custom development for some partners, some things where they get no's across the board. We're the ones that'll say yes. And I think one of the reasons we're able to do that also is we're still founder led. And another casualty of a much more mature, larger organization is kind of once the founders and the brains behind the technology leave, you're left with a knowledge vacuum where the people that are there and working on the products don't necessarily understand or remember the purpose of why things were done. And then that's where the big companies either have to, do a complete overhaul, re-innovate, bring in an entirely new talent team, or do acquisition. So we're one of the few still founder-led companies, in our particular niche of the industry. And that knowledge that we have allows us to be very nimble, make a lot of changes. We're not scared to make tweaks or do customizations and things like that. And again, that's just a unique benefit of the stage of the company we're at right now.
You know what's funny, man? I'm gonna echo what you just said there with a parallel. As we spoke about, I'm building that experience center, here in Dallas. It's a permanent venue for manufacturers that have their products showcased. So it's my attempt to challenge the trade show mentality, with the ISC West GSX shows. So, and when I have conversations with manufacturers, whether it's an executive or a marketer of the company, I've had a pretty, I would say 99% positive feedback about the experience center. Yeah, this makes sense. We want to have a product there. I've only had one person or one company say no to the experience center, and it was to your point. It's coming. I won't point to the company who they are, but it's been around for years in the access control space. They had an executive take over to be the new CEO. He's been there now for I don't know 3 or 4 years, and he told me that being involved with what we're building at the Experience Center is not a part of their strategic plan for 2026. And so I'm like,
getting more exposure is not a part of a strategic plan.
well, not even just exposure, just it's not pay to play. Like I'm not telling you, hey, Evan, spend 100 grand to have your product showcased. What that you would do probably at an IC West, at least at a minimum. It's just funny because that mentality, man, it still exists in our industry. That's what I'm talking about as far as complacency. It's still there.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's industry specific. It's kind of just the nature of how things evolve in organizations. And again, a founder mindset is a lot different than like a career executive that's brought in to, steer a business, be all about the numbers, things like that. And the appetite for taking risk. I think, well, obviously being in an experience center, I think is low risk, but other things as far as development, maybe taking a chance on products and innovation, that risk appetite greatly goes down. And, someone like me who's kind of been always trying to push the envelope and do different things, like risk is the excitement. And, all you need is a few of the risks to pay off, or maybe one big risk to pay off, even if there's multiple risks that don't pay off. That's how you can make a really difference. And, if you lean in to the chance of winning, and you push away kind of the fear of losing or the fear of things falling apart, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't take a risk. And so the appetite for taking a risk, I think, is a huge advantage.
I love that, man. And it points back to why I started SVIP, especially around the end users that we spoke about before we kicked this off live. The end users now that follow SVIP are end users that are truly pioneers, that are taking those risks that you just mentioned, that want to really separate their organization with maybe the bleeding edge or cutting edge technology versus being vetted by, again, nothing against integrators, but being vetted by a channel to bring them something new, or looking at, a forum or something to learn about something new. They actually trust like what we do at SVIP as far as bleeding edge. And then also it's good because you guys want to get your product in front of many end users' hands as possible. And why not have that direct correlate and communication with an end user who's willing to take a risk or willing to try something new around a product that you're innovating. So I think that kind of mentality, man, I've seen now, just not from obviously it's great to hear from your side, but from the end user side, I'm seeing that more frequently now, where these end users not only self-install things by themselves, by the way, that's a whole different conversation, but they're exploring new technology without an integrator bringing them new technology, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and you have to look at the incentives. Like every part of the chain is going to be a different incentive, and incentive makes the world go round. Integrators want to sell. What are they going to be able to sell and make money on and get their numbers up? End users really want something to work that is going
Yep.
to make the people going in and out of their building happy and not frustrated. And ideally, the corporations providing the technology and the products, they should want their products to be really good and have people want to use them and be able to satisfy customer requirements. And I think our industry, it's no secret that our industry is slow to adopt a lot of technology. Like you would not believe how far behind the curve just being okay with security systems connected to the internet. Wireless technology has been around for decades, and it's just now, probably within the last 5-8 years, that people are okay with even wireless. But yeah, there's end users that just want things to work. They have ideas of, they know what their customers want. Their customers are telling them this is the requirement. I've seen end users develop their own solutions just because no one would give it to them. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's my whole point about self-sufficiency. Like these end users are starting to become self-sufficient when it comes to, basic installs on products to, bleeding edge technologies that they want to learn about or maybe incorporate. Like, especially in gaming, man. The running theme, I've said this countless times on the podcast, is I've built my house and bought my house on casinos because I've worked with so many casinos in Vegas and Oklahoma. And you want to talk about a self-sufficient industry? Casinos are self-sufficient, man. I think they're light years ahead of multiple industries because they can do it themselves. They're always on the forefront of technology. But that's exactly to your point. They're becoming more, surrounded and aware of technology. And to your point about the technology infusion, like I call it the dinosaur mentality. Like it takes us forever to fucking innovate and iterate around the industry, but it takes technology companies outside of our industry to really push the security industry companies to really innovate and iterate. So it's refreshing for me to hear that from you because you recognize that as well. I've been saying that for years, man, about lack of
yeah.
innovation.
And what I think is funny too is now there's a lot of entrance into the access control space. Amazon has a little booth with their Amazon Key thing. There's a lot of companies that are coming in, and I think they are going to kind of drive, innovation, because if
1,000%.
the legacy companies here are not going to innovate, they're just going to do it themselves. And conversations I've had with executives from these other outside, the Silicon Valley types or things like that, they come in and they're like, what the heck is going on in this industry? Like,
Exactly.
as dependent as they are on the industry,
Yeah.
they are shocked at what's actually going on behind the curtain. And that's been very positive for us, because when they say, why can't it do this? Why can't we do this? We're like, oh, well, actually, you can do it with ours. You can do it with our stuff. We already thought about that. But again, it's changing the mindset and just mainly educating. And we're a technology first company. Like, we don't spend money on marketing. Like, the majority of our labor force is all engineering. All the money goes into R&D. But now, we're rolling out a new product line in the next couple months. And we're actually going to be able to start pivot to getting the education and kind of the brand recognition out there. But it's built on having a very solid product that we can stand behind. So yeah, that's one of the biggest issues we have, is just the brand recognition, people saying they haven't heard about us. But that's going to start to change. Some major companies like Hanwha have decided to build their entire access control strategy on our product line. So we're going to ride that momentum, and that ties back to my goal for 2026. And I guess the good news, well, double-edged sword, the product was supposed to come out end of 2025. It's rolling into 2026, but now we get to just tag that excitement on for 2026.
Well, congrats, man, on the Hanwha deal. That's awesome, man. That's a huge player here in the industry. I guess let's point back to the value prop now of Azure for our listeners, man. If you had to paint a picture and said, okay, this is what Azure does very, very well, then I'm going to ask you another question after this. But tell me the value proposition of Azure and why someone would choose you guys over someone like a Mercury.
The reason people would choose us is because they're able to deliver exactly the type of solution they need. 99.9% of feature requests, solution requests that an end user is requesting, or a package of, video, intrusion, HVAC, all these systems that are becoming more intelligent, they need a way to consolidate on site. And that's something that our platform provides. Like, it was designed from the ground up to be able to be interoperable with other systems and augment solutions and other products that companies may have. So even though we're a third party, vendor and open platform, we give the tools through customizations and things like that that allow companies to make the system work as if they developed it themselves. So we don't see, cooperation or things like that as a threat to our business. We actually try to push that because we know that the more things you get working together, the better the user experience is. And again, touching back on the support, we want to make sure that our products are represented in a very good way and making people happy, and people are going to speak positively about it, not because we're beating them over the head to promote our stuff. So having people say, you guys were able to support us through the integration process, the sales enablement, the go-to-market, and be really hands-on to make sure the way everything is done from the technology to the sales and marketing and business side is done the best as it can be. That is what I would say the value prop is. Like, we've had major success with companies that are new to the access control space, greenfield, no tech debt, or, the debt of having previous customers that are used to using a certain platform. They're accustomed to the limitations already. And that's the other thing. Like, if there's limitations in a product, but everyone's using the product, everyone kind of just accept those limitations. We're trying to remove those limitations, remove those barriers with something that's fresh and new and capable, and then be able to deliver products and solutions that the end users actually want and is really easy to work with.
So talk about how this has been received so far. Do you guys have I imagine you have strong markets for southern markets on how, implementation adoption's been taking place. You guys operate well in schools? Is it enterprises? Is it mom and pops? Is it retailers? I mean, walk me through kind of the basic ICP or verticals that you guys are just really winning right now.
Mm-hmm. So we are completely enterprise, but the way our topology can be configured, it can satisfy small, medium business, with cost-effective topologies. But we have a lot of corporate office space. There's some major government installations that use our stuff. We have one partner that's big in the multifamily on the East Coast and the South. So we pretty much can span across anything. And again, where it really shines is companies that have some sort of other product or other idea that's maybe slightly outside the bounds of just access control. And then that's kind of the delivery. So like Hanwha is an example, like they're a video company. They're known for their cameras, all those things. Right. So being able to bring the access control into the fold to partner with video in a very seamless, efficient, responsive way, that's where the advantage is. So all these companies all these installation sites that already have all these systems that are kind of siloed, they may have one software for this, one software for that, bringing the access control panel, which will always exist. Wired panels, you can't really move that to the cloud, like it's going to physically be there. To consolidate things there is an arbiter of information and decision making and reporting, to interoperate with other systems. Like, that's where we really shine.
And someone like, a Hanwha, for example, that just unlocks so much awareness and adoption almost instantaneously because they have a huge distribution channel. They have a huge reseller network. I know you mentioned OEM. Is that the prime go-to-market strategy for you guys, is OEM relationships?
Yes. So we are an OEM business, but one thing that's unique about us also is we allow our partners to completely control their go-to-market strategy. They can sell through their distribution channels. We don't have major restrictions to protect anyone in particular. We don't enforce mandatory minimums. We don't put up any barriers that would inhibit people from wanting to, take a chance on us. And, even if they give us a little portion of their business, like, that's totally fine. We're confident that the products and the solution that'll be delivered is going to sell itself. So we don't have to be anti-competition. We don't have to say, hey, this is how you normally do business, but you can't do business like that if you're going to do business with us. We don't do that. Again, we have enough confidence in our product and the solutions that can be provided that we want other companies to continue doing what they're doing well and just have our products be a part along for the ride.
So what if you have an enterprise end user that's like, Evan, I love everything you showed me, man. This makes complete sense for a business. We want to rip out Mercury, put Azure in, but we want to do it ourselves. Are you entertaining that conversation?
What do you mean by doing it ourselves?
It means they want to buy direct.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, cool. So Tritium is another partner of ours. They're a subsidiary of Honeywell in the building management space. So they actually are an OEM partner of ours. They handle all the software, all those things, but they let their distribution partners buy directly from us. That was a business strategy of theirs where they want to take really good care of their distribution partners. They don't want to be marking up hardware to them. They want them to get the best deal, direct support. So they're able to buy directly from us. So that's like a very good example. Hanwha's another one where they have sales and distribution channels that they already have in place, have invested a lot of time and money in. For us to say, hey, you can't sell it like that, or to put restrictions on it, it's almost like it's not a non-starter, but it's something that's a huge form of hesitation to move forward. And again, if we just want to get our products out there and get people using them and make end users happy, however it gets into their hands, like that's totally fine.
So that's my whole point. So like an MGM Resorts, if they came to you and said, hey, Evan, we want to buy Azure, you can sell direct to MGM?
They do need software. So they would have to use some sort of software that would be able to communicate and operate the boards. But there's companies that are just creating access control software from the start. You know what I mean? And we'll entertain anybody. We're not going to say, hey, you're not big enough. Oh, hey, you don't have enough reputation. There's no limitations there. If you're going to build the software or you have software, you can get it through us. The way the nature of the business is, the person who develops the software, spends a lot of time, energy, and resources. Like they need to get return on investment. So usually that relationship is they would buy from us and sell to their customers and package it with the software. But if MGM said, we're going to build our own software, we're not happy with the solutions out there, we need hardware that's going to help us do that. Yeah, integrate our hardware. We have our software team that will literally be on the phone with you every day, every night for an hour, 2 hours, whatever is necessary to teach you. Like we had to teach Hanwha access control. It takes a long time, but we're happy to do it. And we know that in the long run, if people feel confident using it and they feel happy with the product, they're going to push it. So an MGM, of course, they have a massive footprint. If they wanted to build software, we would help them do it.
Well, that's my whole point. Like, the self-sufficiency of end users now, it's more advantageous now for some of these end users to do it themselves or get things by themselves versus relying on the channel for that, which it's good for me to see that, number one, on the end user side, but to have a manufacturer that is open to doing that and doing that kind of relationship, I love that, dude. I mean, because again, going back to my earlier point, like we already discussed, most manufacturers are stuck in their legacy mindsets of how they go to market.
Yeah, and there's one company we're working with right now where they're like a VAR. They sell they sell other people's software, and they reached the point where they were tired of hacking up their own stuff, or hacking up the other people's stuff to make it work. And they're like, yeah, we actually started making a piece of hardware ourselves because if we're not going to get what we need, we might as well make it ourselves. It's really easy to say that on the hardware side, but once you really start tallying up overhead, regulatory certifications, inventory, those kind of things, it's a massive uphill battle, which is why, the technology developments in this industry over the last 20 years has been on the software side. Hardware, you got to be kind of crazy to build a whole business just on hardware. And that's where having the backing of an existing company that's been in the industry for 40 years has been really helpful. But, people say, hey, we were building our own hardware, and then we stumbled across you, and you have exactly what we envisioned trying to get to. And I'm like, yeah, it takes like 10 years. And they're like, yeah, we kind of figured that out. Why don't we just use yours? And there you go.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, dude. You're spot on. You mentioned a lot of the positives with Azure. If you listened to my episode with Van Til of Brevo, you would have heard this question about where do you suck as a company. And so I like to ask that question to manufacturers. But then number two, I tell end users to ask that question anytime they get a sales pitch from a manufacturer. I don't care if you go to a trade show and a stupid immature sales rep will tell you all the fucking pros and benefits of their solution, but they'll rarely remit the flaws and the weak points. So I guess, Evan, if there is a weak point or a flaw with Azure, what is it?
Yeah, so I would say, as an engineer myself, I'm proud to say that I don't think there's a weak point in the products, but as a company, our weak point is install base and brand recognition. But, you can't really have one without the other when you're in, a company, obviously. But, the way I play that narrative is, if you're just looking to do cannibalization of an existing ecosystem and, taking over from here or taking over from there, we don't necessarily see a small install base as a weakness. We see that as a lot of opportunity to win based on the merits of the product and the solution you're able to provide. So I see that as a positive. And as far as like the company's size, adjusting scale is not difficult. This company, the company backing us has been around for 40 years. It's sold systems in 76 countries. The manufacturing is in place, the people are in place, the reach is in place, everything's in there. So the ability to scale is not necessarily anything new to us, and it's not something that we would shy away from. It's something we're totally capable of doing. But as far as the hard part of having a good product that's able to deliver for end users, I would say that is not a weak point, which is something I can hang my hat on.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. I think, and obviously the weak points you did mention, market awareness, brand recognition, those are easily solvable on the business side, especially getting the brand out. Because I think the heavy lifting's over for you guys. You have a solid product, you have a solid offering to hit the market. Now it's just like how many hands can we get in front of, people to use it.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, we brought on Frederick. He's been
Yep.
doing a great job for sales enablement. He has a lot of connections and experience in the OEM space from, his previous endeavors. So yeah, the 2026 is going to be the year where our name's on the map.
I love that, man. I guess for the access control players in this space, man, my dad, Scott May, he works for Hartman Controls, which is a Canadian access control software player. They have their own proprietary panels and controllers, but they're also open though to exploring OEM relationships as well. So I'm curious. I know you guys have Emron Corporation, Unity IS software. What other ACS players are you guys working with today?
So I've already mentioned we have Hanwha. That's the
Yep.
major player that's new. Tridium. We have a company called TechWave in the multifamily space. We did a partnership with Safer, which they do the in-person
Yep.
readers. And actually, that's one of the things I would mention as far as what's good about working with us. It's not an all or nothing solution where it's like integrate our entire technology stack or don't use it at all. We let people pick and choose which part of our technology they want to use. So we'll provide the APIs for the downstream boards. If you want to just use the downstream boards, if you want to use the controllers, you can use the controllers. If you want to use the whole thing, you can use the whole thing. So Safer, for example, is using our little downstream IO board as, secure door control for doors paired with their person readers. So that's a technology partnership where they've been able to leverage something. A couple of the other ones, Maven, other small guys that we've established with are there. But I would say the really exciting ones that are going to really raise some eyebrows, they'll be coming to light this year. So I can't quite talk about them yet.
Well, I imagine the big guys in this space, obviously Linnell's, the Genetechs. AMAG is proprietary. I don't think you partner with AMAG, or maybe I'm
But
wrong.
we've talked to them, so here's one other thing, and AMAG kind of falls into that. So you have these companies that have been around 20, 30, 40 years. In the late 1900s, you had to do everything yourself. Even manufacturing you had to do yourself. Contract manufacturing wasn't really yet a thing. So a lot of legacy conglomerates have had everything from software, hardware, everything. And these companies have reached a point where they kind of have to decide, it's like, do we want to spin up new hardware because our other stuff just isn't cutting it more? Or do we want to look and try and leverage something else like our platform and then focus on the bread and butter of the software? So I don't really know if I'm supposed to speak, but there's some companies like AMAG or others that may choose one route where we're going to try to just develop everything ourselves. And then the others that say, look, we really want to go all in on what we know is our secret sauce and leverage your hardware.
Yeah. Well, I'll point to like Genetech, for example. I mean, no one thinks of Genetech access control half the time. They think about the VMS, think about security center. But I know Genetech now has LPR. They have center just access control. They're doing other offerings now, a part of their ecosystem, which is why I think on the end user side, when I had an end user that worked for a casino that was so, again, nothing against Milestone, but they had Milestone for years, and they just said, we're going to pivot to Genetech because Genetech now incorporates their own access control. They're looking for more of that unified offering. And obviously, Genetech's open. I know they use Mercury, but again, having Azure as the backend could be a nice opportunity for someone like a Genetech to use you guys.
Yeah, and Genetech's an interesting one. Like Genetech wants to be a software company, and what I realized is there's a lot of companies that'll develop hardware just because they have to. What's available in the market doesn't meet their needs, and they say, you know what, like we know what we want to do. We have a vision. We'll just make it ourselves. And then again, that's the conversation I have where it's like, hey, what you're making or what you have, like we have that, you can use ours. So it was a kind of a gamble that was taken when we decided to just recreate everything 10 years ago of like, we know at some point people are going to raise their head up, what's new, what can we do? And we work towards that goal. So like, as everyone now is kind of pulling their head up, like, why are we doing this? What can we do differently? And we just say, here's what you've been waiting for. Here's what you're looking for. It's been 10 years in the making.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. A couple more questions here, Evan. And my last question, you probably know what it is already, but I guess my next question, you already hit on 26 goals. I guess besides from an R&D perspective or an innovation perspective, do you feel like you're already there, or I'm sure you guys will have new features come out throughout the year, but do you guys feel pretty comfortable with your current offering today?
Yes. So we have a complete product line of existing products. And like I said, we have the new controller platform rolling out in the next couple months. We're sending out beta boards to our partners in a week or two. So from a hardware perspective, we are there. Like the capabilities and performance of the hardware, like it doesn't get much better. And obviously, I'm going to be biased, but even objectively speaking, so now it's just going to be building out the software stack, increasing the firmware capabilities, things like that. But I shudder to think that we're coming out with a product now and like, oh, we're not there. So I'm going to try to ride at least for a little while the fact that we're there. Let's just focus on the software and the development, but from the hardware side, which is the part I'm responsible for. Yeah, I would say we're there for now.
Do you feel like the company will have, I don't know, like an IPO one day or being acquired one day down the line? Do you think that's going to come sooner than later, or are you still going to, stay the course at where you guys are now?
It's hard to say. What I would say is that our company is just now reaching a point where it's able to actualize a lot of the fruits of our labor that have been over the years. So definitely acquisition right now is not, the most ideal time, but who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, you never know what the future
You
holds.
never know.
Yeah. What's I guess I mean obviously man you're the EVP now. Obviously congratulations on the new role. Is that was that something you were expecting with the company, or you just feel like, I'm ready to take on this, challenge, not I want to say challenge, maybe just a new opportunity for the company. Were you expecting that, or what are your thoughts behind that, the kind of new position?
I mean, it's hard to say it wasn't expected. Some of the previous leadership was here. We're getting way up in age. So, even before the title change, I already had a lot of the responsibilities that I still have
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
I was kind of just doing it behind the scenes. Like, a small company like ours, titles don't really mean anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
it's
the
not, yeah.
grind and the work that's going on. But like I said, I've started companies in the past. I've been a part of other startups. So as far as like taking the reins and driving things, it's not anything I'm not used to or, conditioned to be able to do. So as far as it actually becoming a reality and having no backstops behind me, that was new. But it kind of saw it coming just because of, the previous leadership and where the company was standing.
Plans on expanding the help with maybe Frederick, or maybe some revenue hires or sales hires down the line? Or you kind of comfortable as far as a head count for the sales team?
Uh, well, we added Frederick in August. I would say, he's got some work to do, but we're not going to think about expanding in certain areas like that until we kind of hit capacity.
Yeah.
Probably a few more major partners that require a lot of hands-on support and things like that. At that point, we would think about it, but we're good for right now. I'm really confident in the position we're at, both personnel-wise and product-wise. So it's time to just do the work. And then we'll see down the line. Obviously, as part of brand recognition, there's a lot going into, events and those kind of things. And, it's hard to be in two places at once. But I would say for right now, we have capacity to fill as far as the people we have here already, as far as the work capacity to fill up. And then, once that cup starts overflowing, we can look to do more.
Execution, baby. It's all about execution right now, man. Just
Execution, the fun part and the scary part.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, cool, man. Last question. You already know what it is. I mean, 60-second hot seat. You pretty much answered the question as we were talking this whole time. But in 60 seconds, man, if you had to pitch Azure to, I don't know, someone that has no knowledge of access control or controllers or readers or panels, what would be the layman's terms, the common sense terms in 60 seconds to really resonate with that individual?
What I would say is if there's ideas you have for solutions that you want to execute and implement, and you're tired of getting no's from all the people you ask, that are the known players in the industry, if you ask us or tell us what you want to do, I can almost guarantee you the answer will be yes. And if the answer is maybe, we will make it into a yes.
Boom, man. Mic drop. I think that was a strong answer for 2026, man. I
You
love
would
asking
not
that
believe how
question.
you would not believe how many times I've said
But
that.
I like that because you didn't go into and again, nothing against my past episodes, dude, but most people will go to like the features, the products, the benefits of which is fine. You want to point those, but it's like I asked a question, I told you to break it down in common sense terms, layman's terms, with someone that has zero knowledge about access control, and you just made it simple. If you have ideas, bring them to us. If we can't do it, we'll turn your maybe to a yes. Like you said nothing around like access control or the controllers you build or the benefits that you get. Like I love that answer, which tells you why most sales guys fail today in 2026 because they immediately go to the fucking feature set versus explaining a value prop or explaining a story and having a humane relationship with someone in a sale, which I love. So kudos, man.
And when you believe in what you do, it makes it easier when you believe in what you do. And I really believe in the products and what we're doing here. So it makes it easier when you're passionate and actually believe in what you're
doing. Yeah. And that's good for an engineer to say that versus someone that's in the sales seat, man. So you're an engineer at heart, giving a sales pitch. I love that. Well, man, if people want more information about yourself, get connected with you as well as the company, where's the best place to do that?
So we have our website, azure-access.com. It's currently getting revamped because the website was previously set up by an engineer, which was me. So the content is very technical, but that's one of the things Frederick's helping with to make it more, towards the audience of integrators, end users, and maybe less tech people. But technology people or anyone that wants to discuss products or anything like that, just reach out to email. I don't know. I'm not going to rattle off the email, but you can include it in the show notes or anything like that. But I'm happy to get on the phone call at any time, brainstorm. I get really excited talking about stuff and what people want to do. So, personal conversations are great, but just, high level information, anything like that. And then joining the partner program, there's no barriers to entry. There's no fees, anything like that. Sign the NDA, take a look at our stuff and let's start brainstorming on making something happen.
And we'll also have Azure at the Experience Center once it's up and running, man. So another opportunity to showcase you guys. And we'll have to do this in person, Evan, when I've got the studio all up and running, man.
Yeah, and Taylor, like what you're doing, the format of your interviews, the conversational aspect to it, I think is great. You have a good background and you clearly enjoy what you're doing. So really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the kind words. I just wish I had that's why one reason why I'm building the studio, so I can have my bourbon collection, my cigar collection while I'm doing podcasts. It makes it more fun, So we'll have to get you down once that's up and running, man. But Evan, thanks again, man. Genuinely appreciate the time, dude. And I hope you have a great 26, dude.
Thanks, Taylor. You too.
Guys and girls, that was Evan Zinger. He's the Executive Vice President of Azure Access Technology. If you're not connected with Evan yet on LinkedIn, send him a connection request. Check out more about what the company is doing. And for those that have more information about our podcast series, Nothing But the Truth, or want to be on an episode, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn at SVIP or check out the website at svip.news. We are on every single streaming platform, YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon. The list goes on. You guys stay safe out there. We'll catch you guys on the next one.